Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio. You're here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. Well, this week is a very, very big milestone in my career here at the network. It's the 400th show. So that's a really big milestone for anybody to sort of been on air, and 400 shows later, we're still going strong, and we have a really vast audience from around the world. I get lots of messages in my inbox every week of people telling me how that it's changed their lives, how I've been able to help them. They look forward to the astrology, they look forward to the card of the week, and they also look forward to listening to other callers that call in with an issue or a situation that they want handled. And they sort of feel that sometimes that the message is for them too, even though they haven't been personally able to connect with the show. They found the message has given them some sort of insight. So this week, to celebrate the 400th show, I'm going to feature one of our other tarot cards from the stable of tarot cards designed by myself and Hinkler Books here in Australia, and it's called The Secrets of Tarot. Now, The Secrets of Tarot was launched approximately this time 8 years ago, so it came out not long after I joined the network. So I thought we would sort of use that card this week, and I also have on my Facebook page a link to the new tarot widget that's on my website that's featuring these cards. Yes, we already have a widget there for the Simply Tarot cards for those people that are passionate about them too. So let's feature this Secrets of Tarot card this week, which is the Wheel of Fortune. Now, it's the elevation of money. It's overseas trip or completion phases. So it's a really ambiguous sort of card. You will notice that the pictures are exactly the same as what's on the Simply Tarot set. This is an old world design, and this is what the publishers came up with, that they did their market research, and some people wanted an oldie worldy sort of card. So they took the Simply Tarot and turned it into the Secrets of Tarot with this. So Wheel of Fortune. So the Wheel of Fortune is a really positive card to come out. We'd all could do with a little bit of elevation in money. And some people might be lucky enough to be taking an overseas trip this Easter, or pretty close to taking one soon. So whatever you might be doing in your life at the moment, look at this as a completion phase. Look at this as the opportunity to sort of bring in maybe some extra cash, or sort of, just really feel as if you're back in the driver's seat with your life. And there've been so many of us that have been feeling recently that life is sort of out of control around us. And if we can sort of control a little bit of what's going on in our lives, I think we start to feel then as if we're back in the driver's seat and we're sort of steering our own ship, so to speak. And that's what the Wheel of Fortune reminds me of, is the ship's wheel, so that, we can steer our own course in life. And that's really important sometimes, to be able to do that. So astrology-wise this week, we've still got a big week. We've still got a lot of emphasis on Aries and Pisces, and with Aries being the last few days of Aries, we've still got the sun in Aries. So happy birthday to all those Aries people, and I know there's many of them around the world, and they're wonderful people, and you get to know them just because they like to motivate everybody and get everybody up off the couch, and then they take off and say, well, I'll leave it up to you. That's okay, that's their job. So happy birthday to all the Aries. So we still have Chiron, which is not an actual planet, but is known as the wounded healer in technical sides of astrology, or karmic sides of astrology, which is showing people the way forward. Now, when I'm talking about Chiron here, yes, we're predominantly talking about Aries and the remaining two fire signs, which is Leo and Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Libra, but it is washing over the other remaining 8 signs, where it's asking us to have a look at what needs to be healed in our lives. And this is a really perfect time of the year to look at that while we spend time with family and friends over the Easter break. And whether you're religious or whether you're not, it will have a special significance for you. It's not just a public holiday and a time to have some fun. It's a time for introspection as well, and looking at the things that maybe need to be fixed or healed in our lives. So this is the perfect opportunity. If there's been sort of a rift in the family, or a rift with a friend or a neighbour or a loved one, maybe it's the time to reach out and give them that olive branch, and give them that opportunity that maybe we can heal something over the weekend. And this is what Chiron is asking us to do. In some situations, things are too far gone, and people say, look, I really can't do that. But if you can't physically reach out, then maybe emotionally reach out and forgive that person, in your own mind, in your own body, so that you're taking some steps towards healing. I believe Easter is about healing and sort of making change, and as well as the religious connotation of what it means for many different faiths around the world. It's a time that we need to sort of really start being kinder to people and start, mending fences and reaching out to people. So that's the the Chiron part. Now we're going to move into the Pisces part. Now, look, we've been talking about a lot of planets in Pisces for a very, very long time now, because they have been in Pisces for a very long time. So it's not as if I'm making this up. They are there. They're all clustered together. It's been a very intense time for Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpios in the opposite sign of Virgo, but it's been also washing over the rest of us too for the remaining 8 signs. So we kick off the Pisces plethora of planets with Venus sitting in Pisces. So Venus is the planet of love and affection. This is where we look for in a chart the things that we love to do. It's not always where we look for relationships. Yes, I'm not saying relationships aren't important, but there's many other factors that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that make our hearts sing. You know, whether that's sort of hearing a nice piece of music or doing something creative or just doing something nice for yourself, something that's going to put a smile on your dial, is what Venus does. So it's where we look for how we approach or what we look to do in our lives that makes our heart sing, that makes us feel different. So Venus, the planet of love and affection, is actually conjunct or holding hands at the moment with the moon's north node. Now, this is not a planet. This is the moon's north node showing us how we can aspire to be better people. What are we aiming for? What are we trying to achieve? And with the moon's north node here in Pisces, we're trying to achieve a lot more calmness, a lot more peacefulness in our lives. We're looking to enhance our creativity. We're looking to sort of surround ourselves with nice music and creative people and, you know, good food and wine, and just having basically a good time, and sort of starting to look for the finer things in life, in my opinion. You know, looking at ways that we can mend those fences that I was talking about earlier. It's a time to sort of start reaching out and, you know, being kind to somebody that maybe hasn't always been as kind to us. You know, sometimes we need to turn the other cheek and let bygones be bygones. So the North Node is actually conjunct or holding hands Saturn. So Saturn's the planet of discipline. It's the planet of structure. In old teachings, it was the father figure planet. It was the father planet in astrology. I'm not sure that that necessarily just applies to the father. There's some incredibly strong women out there, and we can learn our lessons from them as well. I sort of see Saturn as sort of saying, not so much a restriction or a limitation, but saying, hang on a minute. Have you really thought this out? Have you got the best plan of attack? Have you got everything in place? Are all your ducks in a row? Have you done your homework? Are you prepared? Are you ready for what might come? And not necessarily saying on a negative. It can give you that stickability. It can give you that drive and determination to see something through to the end. So Saturn is also conjunct or holding hands Mercury, the planet of communication, in Pisces. So collectively, what's happening with all this stellar of planets sitting in Pisces is we've got Venus, the North Node, Saturn, and we've got Mercury. So we've got Venus sort of showing us the way to bring in love and light into our lives. The North Node is showing us or helping us to achieve the highest potential that we can achieve during this transit. And Saturn is saying, okay, make sure you've done your homework. We're very structured. We're very organized. And then that way we can deliver the message in communication, whether it's in written form, spoken form, any form of communication, in a very structured, positive way, but also bringing in our higher self, and also bringing it in a very creative way, a gentle way, in a way that, you know, can appeal to the masses. So it's a really positive time. So if you are a Pisces, or you know some Pisces at the moment, you know, cozy up to them, because they've got a lot of wisdom to share at the moment. I believe that because they are the final sign of the zodiac, that they encompass a lot of the wisdom of the previous 11 signs, and they make it their own. They put a nice, creative, soft, gentle sort of spin on it in a way that's more palatable to most of us. I don't see them as being the dustbin of the cycle of the zodiac signs as all, which a lot of astrologers write. I feel they have immense power. So then we have that stellium of planets sitting in Pisces is actually conjunct or holding hands Neptune, that's just crossed over into Aries. So it's interesting because they're still all holding hands. It's like a train. You know, if you look at the engine being Venus, and the carriages behind is the North Node, Saturn, Mercury, and now finally Neptune, which has just stepped into Aries. And Neptune sitting in Aries is going to be there for a long time. So we're going to have lots of time to talk about this. And I know a lot of my Aries friends are feeling a little bit restless at the moment. What's Neptune mean? How's it going to affect me? I don't want to be airy-fairy. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. Well, just calm down. It's going to help you become a little bit more creative. it's also going to sort of maybe just take that edge off that fire that sometimes can be a little bit intense. It's sort of, approaching the fire in a more palatable sort of way, getting people to listen to you more, getting people to listen to your new ideas. So look at this as a very creative period of time, Aries, that you're going to be able to sort of come out and people are going to sort of take notice and say, oh, I didn't know they really had that sort of energy about them, or I didn't realise they were that creative, or could sing, or could dance, or could paint a picture, or could do something amazing on the computer or their laptop. So it's going to be a very, very interesting time. But for a lot of Aries people, it's going to seem to feel quite a restless time because they don't know what to do with themselves. All of a sudden they're waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning with a brilliant idea. And gee, I don't want to get out of bed and put that down, but they're being sort of forced to. So it's a very interesting time ahead of Aries people. So finally, we're going to talk about Aries. We're going to talk about Mars sitting in Cancer. Now, Mars is the planet of action and of opportunities. That sort of is where our ego comes from, I believe, and drives us to get out of bed. It does not feel comfortable in Cancer. Cancer sort of is a homely sort of energy. It's sort of like we want to feel secure. We want to sort of have a good meal and some good people around us and not venture too far from home, very happy to sort of stay in the home environment. So it's sort of almost like they're at opposite ends of the spectrum here. So Mars is encouraging Cancers to get out there, strut their stuff a little bit more, show the world what they're made of, because they really do have some amazing talents that they keep hidden underneath that very hard shell that they've got. And Cancer people are, synonymous with being a crab. They either walk sideways or backwards to go forward. They don't necessarily move directly forward, but they do make great ground. So don't underestimate the power of a Cancerian. They actually really are quite strong underneath that very tough shell. And if they seem to be going sideways to go forward, then watch out, because that's when they're at their most powerful. And finally, we're going to talk about Jupiter in Gemini. Now, Jupiter in Gemini is the planet of luck and opportunity. It is affecting mainly the air signs, which is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, but the opposite sign of Sagittarius too is finally, he's drawing to a close in this energy. But it's a time to sort of get out there, strut your stuff, show the world what you're made of. It's a time for sort of real expansion and opportunities, and be rest assured that people are taking notice of you, that there will be some opportunities that might come out of nowhere that you weren't expecting. And they're going to come because it's the right thing. It's the right timing for you. So whatever your star sign is, there's some golden opportunities there over the next 7 days. Make sure that you enjoy the company, you enjoy your time with family and friends at Easter, and be kind to yourself. We're going to take our first caller this evening, and it's Xander in Winnipeg. Are you there, Xander? I'm sorry. Xander.
Hi,
sorry,
yes,
dear.
I am.
I'm sorry I keep pronouncing your name wrong. I'm not good on names. How are you, dear?
That's okay. I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you, sweetie. Do you have a question I can answer for you?
I kind of just wanted to see what my spirits or angels or, people who have passed kind of what kind of message they want to give to me.
Okay. Now, look, quite often with people from the other side, they come through when they feel it's important to them. And quite often that's not always on our bus timetable. We think,
Right.
oh, I've got this major crisis. I've got this decision I've got to make. Should I change my job? Should I do this? And they're sitting back there laughing, having a cuppa, saying, well, isn't that funny? What does she think we are? We're not here to answer every question. You've got to make some decisions for herself.
Right.
That's what I was given from the other side. There was a plethora of people, a group of people sitting there up there having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and sort of laughing their head off, saying, well, what does she want to know this for? Hasn't she got any brains? Doesn't she know where she wants to go? Doesn't she know what she wants to do? It's almost as if they're a choir of people with a real sense of humour saying, well, we're sitting back watching the show. We've given you all the insight. We've given you all our little tips. It's now up to you to put the jigsaw pieces together. So I find that quite amusing. They do have a real sense of humour on the other side. And, sometimes they don't see things quite as importantly or as urgently as we do here on Earth, because there is no time over there.
Right.
It's sort of timeless. And they
That's
can
right.
sometimes sort of think that, the things that we're getting upset about, they think, well, what's she getting upset about that for? It's all going to be okay, but we don't know that here on Earth. So for them to be coming through in such a playful way says to me that your life is sort of unfolding in a very playful, very happy sort of manner. And it's like not saying don't take life seriously, but what I'm saying is don't get bogged down on things. Do you know what I mean? If something comes up that's a
Right.
crisis, look at it and put it to one side and then come back to it tomorrow and look at it again. Because I feel then you'll see maybe through a different set of eyes that, hang on a minute, this is not as serious or as dangerous or whatever the case may be as I first thought. Now I've got a plan of attack. I've slept on it and I've got some ideas. And that'll be them coming through in the middle of the night, just popping little nuggets into your mind as you sleep, but not necessarily giving you the whole answer. And that's how they like to
Right.
work. See, they're not allowed to control us from the other side. They can share with us pockets of information. It's up to us then
Hmm.
to piece it all together and then act on it, because that way then they're not in control, if you understand what I mean. They've made suggestions.
Right.
You're clever, you
Hmm.
can put it together. And, then there'll be other times where they will come through with a very, very clear dream. And it's like you get all the sequences of steps that you need to follow through, or should, or their suggestion of what you should do in this situation. And you wake up and you feel like, my goodness, you're all goosebumpy and cold and think, gee, that was really real. Well, yes, it was very real, because they took you in there and showed it to you in, like living the real video. You were actually in there, and that's why
Right.
you wake up with those sensations. So what they're sort of saying to me from the other side is they're coming through in many very different ways to share with you pockets of information. They know you're clever. They know you're going to sort things out. But they're also saying to me, it's your choice too. Like, you've got to be the one driving the car. They're just like the passengers chirping in the back seat, putting their 10 cents worth in it. Are we there yet?
Right.
I'm hungry. I want to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, they're like naughty little
Yeah.
children, if you look at it that way.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to give you the power to empower you, to help you understand that you are the driver of your life. So having said that, they were showing me too, around September this year, there's going to be some massive changes. So is there some projects that you've been working on that you're hoping to sort of bring to a close or a fruition around September, October this year?
Um, Nothing that I can really think of
Okay.
specifically,
All right.
but
Well, that might still,
yeah.
yeah, but that might be still coming up. That's what they showed me, that there was a massive turning point around
Okay.
that time of the year, and they were all clapping and cheering. But I asked them repeatedly what that was about, and they just said, "Well, she knows what we're talking about." I thought, okay, all right. I'm just the person that's passing
Okay.
on the messages.
Yeah.
And look,
Fair.
they're very playful, so I'm not taking it as being anything negative, because they were all so
Right.
playful and having such a great time, and sitting around having a cuppa and having a bit of cake, and and when they show me things like that, we have to look at that for what it actually is. When they're in a playful mood and they're eating cake is a celebration. If they were having,
Right.
what we call scones in this country, but you guys call them biscuits over there, or the Americans do, that to me means hard work. So they were showing me cake. So it was something they were excited about, they were happy about. They were all sitting around laughing, having a cup of whatever their beverage is, and having a good time. So I felt that there was going
Okay.
to be a change of job. Is that something that you've been looking at doing?
Yeah, so right now I stay at home with my kids, and my daughter will be in kindergarten starting in September, and I'm starting to ponder on
It's
what
this,
I'm going to do.
there's the September.
Yep.
Why they were showing me September, see, but your daughter's going to start kindergarten, then you'll be in a position of choice. Do you go back and do some part-time work? Do you start something from home? You'll have a little bit more free time.
Right.
That's your September marker.
Yes.
That's what they were alluding to. Yeah, well, everything's going, yeah,
Okay.
I could see a little job. I didn't see a full-time job. I just saw something that you could manage around family life, and you seem to be really enjoying it. So that's coming in
Yep.
later in the
Okay.
year. So look, I don't think you've got anything to worry about, but they're showing me another
Awesome.
baby.
Oh, okay.
Were you planning on another baby?
No, 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 I'm not.
Okay, well then take that as a warning that you make sure that you step up your birth control, because if you don't want another baby, they were showing me them, they were rocking a baby. That is still your choice.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
so
I will do that.
yes, okay, love, lovely to talk with you, sweetie, and have a wonderful day. Okay, we're going to talk with Shanti in Little Rock in Arkansas. Are you there, Shanti? Shante. I'm really not doing well today with the
No,
names.
I'm here.
Are you there, Shante?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a
Can you
question
hear
I can
me?
answer for you, please?
Yes, I was really hoping for like a message from my friend that recently passed away, and just a general love reading or whatever comes
Okay.
to.
All right. So with your friend that just recently passed away, there's no sort of definite time that they want to come through from the other side. It's always up to them. And quite often when they're newly passed, they don't necessarily want to make their debut on, you know, everybody around the world listening in either. All I can say to you is that there's still tears on the other side. So to me, that sort of indicates that they weren't ready to go. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Well, were they sick before they went? Did they know that they were going to pass, or was it a sudden passing?
Well, they kind of knew, but then not really. They knew they were sick though, and they weren't taking their medicine. So,
Right, but they still were showing me that they didn't feel that it was their time for whatever reason. They're still upset about that they've gone. They're not accepting it yet.
okay,
So that's okay. There's no timetable for when people accept that their time has come to a close here on earth. But just let me assure you that, they are around you, but they're grieving the loss of everyone as well as you grieving the loss of them. So just give it a little bit more time. I don't know that they're necessarily ready to come through with anything stronger than that. They were just showing me that they were still upset that they were gone. And, that's okay too.
okay.
So moving on to your love life. So you're looking to bring new love into your life, sweetie?
I'm currently in a relationship, so I just wanted to, get a feel of if it's right or not, or
Okay.
so.
Would you mind just sharing with me that person's first initial, please, sweetie, so I can tune into them?
A.
Okay, thank you. All right. Really, really interesting because what I'm picking up around A is 1 minute they're really sort of gung ho and yes, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. And then it's sort of almost like I stop dead and it's like, oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. I'm not sure whether I want this. Look, this will start to settle down as we move through the year. I just sort of feel that they're a very sensitive person and they're trying to make sure that they're not making a mistake. They've had a series of situations that didn't work out. And this time they promised themselves that they would go slower and be more aware and try and be more attentive and try and, take notice of how you're feeling in the situation as well as them and sort of trying to learn to communicate more. I don't think that they communicate as well as what they could. They get it all straightened in their head and then they go to open their mouth and it's like, oh, nothing comes out or very little comes out. So I'm going to ask you to be patient with that. Look, I feel this relationship has got good bones. It's got good energy around it. It's just slow growing to get it to sort of continue to build momentum. So I don't want you to sort of look at that as, if it's a stop-starty sort of situation that this is wrong. No, it's just both of you sort of learning to readjust to the power of what this relationship is. Did it start really quickly, did it, and really intensely?
Yes, kind of.
Yeah. And I think that sort of unnerved both of you at different times. So don't look at that as a negative. Look, not every relationship is the same. And when we sort of start to get closer with somebody, then some of the fears and the things that, didn't work in previous relationships, we see a little glimmer of that. We think, oh, no, I'm not going there again. I'm not going to do that. And we have this sort of like knee jerk, sudden sort of reaction instead of saying, well, okay, all right, there might be some slight similarities here. How can we work through this? How can we sort of see whether this is, still on the right path instead of getting that really jerky sort of relationship? And I think that's what's been going on. You're having a real high in the relationship and he pulls back a little bit and then the other way around. And it's sort of like you've both questioned it. But I just sort of feel, look, just relax, just enjoy it, just see where it goes. But I really do think that this relationship has tremendous potential to really become something long term, happily ever after. And both of you are blossoming in it. And that's a good sign. Both of you have been very hurt in the past and you're both, hesitant about giving all of yourself to a new relationship unless it's right. And that's fair enough. You can't just willy-nilly keep throwing your heart out there to be trampled on. But, I feel that, over time this will build and it will become more successful. So have the two of you moved in together yet? Or is that something that's coming up?
Uh, well, he stays quite often, but not necessarily moved in.
No, but I think over the next few months, I think there's going to be some discussions about this is silly. And I'm still learning. And I think that's the important thing to say to people, that there isn't a day that goes past where we all don't still continue to learn something, even if it's small, even if it's something that we think, oh, yeah, well, that's interesting. We still get that opportunity to learn every single day. And, even working with clients on the show here, I learned something from that, like today with their sense of humour from the other side. I don't often tune into that. Usually there's a lot of serious issues. So that was really nice to have the choir come in and sort of say that, everything's happy and we're sitting back having a cuppa and doing the sort of things that we would do here on Earth. So I hope you've enjoyed our 400 shows. And I want to leave you with one of my favourite songs and from one of my favourite artists. And I really think it epitomises what this show is about. And it's not just from me, it's for all of us. And it's called You're the Voice with John Farnham. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your Easter with your family and friends. And don't forget to check out on the Facebook page where the new tarot widget is for the Secrets of Tarot cards. And we'll see you all again next week. And happy Easter. And I hope the Easter Bunny brings you lots and lots of chocolates. I'm not a big fan of Easter egg chocolate, but I will be indulging in some chocolate over the Easter break. And enjoy your time with family and friends. And don't forget, check out John Farnham and You're the Voice. Bye for now.